So let's share the screen. I think you can see the presentation now. Let's start. Today's agenda is obviously next year's IMET. At the end of the presentation, I will also ask you some questions if there are some people who entered this year's exam, or if you check the exam paper, I'm sure that you saw some important changes and an increased level of hardness in the questions. Every year we can say that it's becoming more and more difficult to get answered. In the sense of not only numbers and the high demand, but also the question types and quality and the content inside the exam. So we will try to break it down a little bit. And also we are going to talk about the rumors that we were hearing around. And in this presentation, I also wanted to share some useful tips for your preparation, because we have to start now. Like if you haven't started to get prepared for next year's IMET, you're about to be late. Not to upset you, but this is to highlight that you should start these days. Before coming to the IMET part, I want to introduce myself a little bit, because maybe some of you just saw the message from WhatsApp groups or from a friend, from somebody else, and maybe you're not following me or you're not in touch with me personally. So who is this girl and what she is doing? Like, why am I here and how come she is confident about giving some information to me about IMET? My name is Ecem. Now, obviously, Med Student Italy is a good nickname to be founded easier. And I'm 24 years old. I'm living in Turin, which means that I'm in my final year in University of Turin. I started in 2017. My focus was always to enter a medical school in abroad. And for the background, I have a nice story about it, which I made a YouTube video about it. If you're curious, you can just go and check. I'm from Turkey, completed an IB diploma program in an international high school. Like I said, I try to study abroad. So particularly, I get prepared for Germany and Italy. I started to try to do some help, try to create something useful back in 2018 when it comes to IMET. Because when we enter University of Turin, for the ones who doesn't know, University of Turin accepts huge amount of students. So the classes are big, we are crowded, and we were the first English year there. So we were a bunch of internationals trying to figure out things. So these kind of topics were obviously on the table all the time. We were talking about how there's a lack of material, there's a lack of resource, or there's lack of useful English news or comments about studying in Italy online, especially online. Like it was super hard to find anything or anyone who already studies English medicine in Italy before I started. So a group of friends, we were talking about these issues, and we decided to publish a question bank. In fact, we did. And then I started to get involved individually. How come it started? Because once I entered, like back in time, there was no Turkish student who was studying English medicine in Italy. And I was the only example, probably one of the oldest examples right now. And people were asking me from Turkey, is like, hey, Ecem, you're my high school friend, but you don't know me. Like your teacher gave me your number. How can I enter? How can I get prepared for this exam? It all started voluntarily and in person. And then I opened a blog, and then I opened an Instagram page, and then YouTube, and then I started to give webinars, and then I started to give lectures, group lectures, consultations to companies about how you can organize an IMET course. In the meantime, I got experience in private tutoring and then group classes. I also completed a course about mentoring students. How can I coach them? How can I prepare programs? How can I prepare resources, exam materials? And here we are today. So let me walk through you some basics. These parts, if you are familiar or have been read some little information about IMET, you probably know. And all of these information here that you see today, obviously they are based on the information that we have and for IMET 2022. So right now, there is no official publication. There is no official communication from Italian Ministry of Education, which indicates that these information on these slides are different or will be different. So we're gonna stick with these informations. This year, before like 2023 changes, like they made some structural changes in IMET. They changed the number of questions. So the total is still 60 questions, but they increased the number of physics and mathematics. So still, based on what we know, we have 10 general knowledge, 10 logic questions, 15 biology, 15 chemistry, 10 physics and mathematics. So what we saw this year, they increased the questions in chemistry and physics and mathematics, which makes me think that they want this exam to be, how can I say, scientifically challenging, I would say, because if you're familiar with IMET preparations and tips and stuff, I'm sure that you heard or saw people saying that, okay, you can skip physics and mathematics, just study for biology and logic and maybe some chemistry and you will be fine. Unfortunately, this is not true. This was never completely true, but this is a whole another topic if we ever break down the previous year's past papers. However, this is very old-fashioned and outdated. With the current changes and with the possible changes and with the difficulty of the questions, especially in last 3 past papers starting from 2020, we can actually understand that these people, they want to challenge us in science. So if you want to have just one take-home message from what we have talked until right now, the take-home message here is science part is the core and the most important part of IMET. And the other thing is 100 minutes haven't been changed. On paper, this is a question mark. Why? We will come to that. And we still expect to have 1 session of IMET per year, and which typically happens in 2nd week of September. But this is also questionable based on what? I'm coming to that. Before scoring, this is the method of scoring right now. It can be changed, we don't know. But until now, it was like this, 1 point half for each correct, minus 0.4 for wrong, and maximum 90 points you can collect. So what are the changes and how come we can comment on these changes? This is the tricky part, obviously. So before coming back to the IMET exam structure and some format changes, I think we all heard that Cambridge just based on an admin type of message, it's not even an official announcement, but it was kind of a part of a communication. They just said that they no longer prepare IMET questions and we should be contacted with Ministry of Education in Italy. And after that, of course, I communicated with lots of people from Italian embassies, from other embassies, or some people who are working with Ministry of Education in Italy. I try to get all the information I can. But this is the thing about living and studying in Italy, when it comes to some changes or some rules and regulations, you have to be patient. They usually come quite late, and you really have to be patient with waiting and with the times and dates, but also the process of collecting information. Once you're a student in abroad, and once you're a foreigner, like, this is not a bad thing, but this is a huge part of being a expat or foreigner or student in somewhere else. You are the one who have to keep yourself updated. You are the one who have to ask the questions. No one's gonna come to you as like, oh, hey friend, like, we made these changes, and your responsibilities are this and this and this, and if you don't do this, you will get in trouble. I'm warning you. No, nobody's gonna do this. So you have to be the adult here and keep yourself updated. Coming back to the topic, when I communicated with Cambridge, just like many hundreds of other people did, they told us similar things. And on their website, I just checked like 2 days ago, they removed the IMAS section from their exam part, which is basically means that like they no longer prepare this paper and they don't provide any information on this paper anymore. And since Cambridge is kind of out of the equation, who are the people or organizations that we are going to follow and we're going to ask the questions? Obviously, it's MIUR, Italian Ministry of Education, and GCA, which is the a subdivision of MIUR who prepares other university exams in Italy. And what are those others? There are exams for engineering, there are exams for architecture, economics. These exams are either in English or Italian, and GCA is the organization who are responsible for these exam preparations. They didn't announce anything about our exam, which is English medical exam, yet they announced some important changes in Italian medical exam and Italian veterinary exam. And these two exams are obviously, they are very similar with the IMAT format and content. And all these years, like even while I was preparing for IMAT or somebody else, we were always checking the questions and format of these two exams because they are always parallel and corresponding to the IMAT. So let me explain. Just pay attention. The things that are written here for Italian medical exam, not for our exam. And based on these changes, we are able to make some comments. So one of the important changes is, until now, Italian medical exam was also happening only once in a year, but starting from this year, there will be 2 sessions for Italian students who wants to take this test. And they will use their highest score if they took 2 sessions, and they will be able to put their highest score in the ranking. And another important change is, all these years, IMAT and Italian medical exam and Italian veterinary exam, they were all paper-based exams. But let me give you some more information in the meantime. Obviously, medical exams are not the only university exams that are happening in Italy. There are other faculties. There are some universities who prepare their own exams, like Polito or Polimi, the technical universities in Italy. And majority of these exams, other faculties exams, like maybe even more than 4 or 5 years ago, they switched to online and computer-based exams. So except these medical exams, majority of these exams were happening already on computer even before pandemic, or we started to think in pandemic as like, oh, we should take this exam as online. And in fact, the computer-based tests, they start with TOLC, which is the short of Test Online TCA. And now these Italian medical exam and Italian veterinary exam, they will be computer-based exams and will be prepared by TCA. But there's no format announcement. Again, I'm highlighting this again because maybe you missed and I don't want you to get confused. There is no announcement about IMET, whether the format or the content will change corresponding to the changes in Italian medical exam. And another thing about these online or / computer-based exams in Italy, you know what you do on paper exam, right? You just open the booklet and start from somewhere, some place that you want to start with, and you have as much as time you want in a specific section of the exam. But on these computer-based exams, this is not the case. If you open the page of biology, you have to stay in biology page and answer those questions to be able to move on to chemistry, for example. This was the case for TOLC exams in Italy. And now they are saying that Italian medical exam, Italian veterinary exam, once they switch to computer-based exams, there will be also section time limitations, just like this, as explained here. So based on these changes and silence from Mir, there are some comments of mine, which is the hardcore of this webinar today. This is why we are here, this page. I know that these changes are happening for Italian exams. However, I don't think that the same changes will happen in the same year in IMET. Why do I tell this? Because I've been living in Italy for 5 years, and I know that these people, they don't tend to make rapid changes. They usually like to test waters in the sense of probably they will try and also build their systems with the Italian exams by making them online. And then if they want to, or like if they find it logical, they will apply these changes to IMET as well. So right now, I don't think there's any point of being in panic, like whether the exam is prepared by Cambridge, whether it's prepared by Italian Ministry of Education. We know that if you want to be a medical student in a university, there are some certain topics that you have to ace in your high school. Like, for example, no matter who prepares the exam, you have to know genetics, you have to know evolution, or you have to know the mutations, or you have to know rates of reaction in chemistry, no matter what happens or who prepares the exam. As a high school graduate and as a med school applicant, we know that a typical good applicant should have a strong scientific background and some logical and thinking skills, obviously. So no matter what happens, instead of spending your hours to check those groups or read those messages, right now, the most important thing to do is start to study and start to get prepared from somewhere. And how are you going to do it? Obviously, you're going to prepare. I'm coming to that tips part, but obviously, you have to start based on what we know right now and based on current curriculum of IMET. Just search for IMET 2022 curriculum on the internet and start to make your plans or start to attend a course. Just start to study, because we will be on we will get the information, and once we get the information, we will adapt to that, which is another skill. As a med student and as a doctor, you have to have those adaptation skills. So start from somewhere, and if something changes, you will adapt to that, or at least you will try to. So these are my inferences. Science is important more than ever, and based on what I'm telling you this, because when I especially break down past paper questions, which is something I regularly do because I prepare mock exams for my students, I prepare unique questions, and my guide is always past exams of IMET, obviously. even in 2020, which is interesting, by the way, because in rest of the world in 2020, many of the authorities, they try to prepare a little bit lighter exams for universities because of pandemic. But when I got the paper of 2020 of IMET, I was surprised because they prepared a harder exam, a quite challenging exam compared to 2019. So especially in last 3 years, we know that there's this certain increase about challenging students, their scientific knowledge and approach to your questions. Right now, IMET is no longer an exam that you can just check the options as like, oh, this option doesn't make sense. And if I eliminate this, I can also eliminate this. And this option is left. I have 50 chance, so I can just randomly choose this question. Based on very, very old papers like 2011, 2012, some people are saying that IMET is an easier exam comparing to other medical exams because you can approach science part with logic as well, which is true until certain degree, but no longer. Like your thinking skills or your super fast Mr. Robot logic skills during questions, during science questions, I'm sorry, they will no longer serve you if you don't have a very strong science knowledge. Thinking skills and logic, they remain as the part of this exam, which is important to highlight because I don't only check for IMET papers, but I also check other faculties papers, engineering, economics, law, etc., etc. During all these 5 years of me trying to be useful for other students, there were some changes in other papers which relatively lightened the part of thinking skills and logic. But we didn't see this case in IMET. And let me tell you another thing. This is not the first time format or content changes happening for IMET. Like since 2011, there were always some changes, whether the number of questions, whether the curriculum, whether the way they hold the exam in the exam centers. It's in constant change, which is a bit bothering, because as a student, I just think it's like, why don't you build a system and a good system and then just go with it? But I guess they're also figuring out with the increasing number of students and different nationalities and etc. So don't be scared. This is not the first time they're gonna make some change on IMET. And but among all these changes, for example, we know that in just 1 year, they increased the general knowledge questions from 2 to 12. And then last year, they decreased it from 12 to 10. However, it seems like the thinking skills and logic part remains the core and the same. They don't touch to that part of the exam. So I expect it to remain important. So these are my comments about next year's exam. I will share you some useful websites where you can keep yourself updated maybe. Obviously, social media is a good thing, a good way of communication and connect with other students, or is the opportunity that I can reach you and some other people who are also trying to be helpful, which I have huge respect. But just a side note, do not believe everything you read or see. We will come to that part again, because there are some things that bothers me on the groups that I see and kind of makes me worry about the safety of IMET applicants, but we will come to that part. Let me share you some preparation tips. So while I was checking the forms, I also saw some questions about improving your English. So I wanted to include this part in my presentation. I always tell this to my students, and whenever a new student comes to me as a tutor, the first thing that I investigate is their English level. and how much they can understand those long paragraphs or scientific terms. This is very important. If you check a past IMAT paper or some questions for logic, logic is the core part to assess one student's English skills, because that is the part where you struggle the most, but also it's kind of easier to solve comparing to science part if you struggle with the language. But anyway, if you want to start to get prepared somewhere and if you're lost, the first thing that you should do is to take an English level exam. Like, for example, if you know the Education First company, which is one of the biggest companies for English language courses, it provides a very detailed language level assessment for free on their internet. You can go and check it out and test your English level. You can try to solve some example language exam papers like IELTS and TOEFL. Just assess your English. And if you cannot reach to B2 level in those exams, just let me tell you one thing, it will be super hard for you to get a satisfactory score on IMAT. Because unfortunately, okay, science is important, science knowledge is important, thinking skills are important. However, all of these have to be in English in your brain. Like, your scientific knowledge in your own language will not be useful for this exam at all. So the biggest step to take is improving your English, and don't be scared of testing it. Because when sometimes students come to me as like, okay, I don't know my English level, but let's start this course, and by the time we will know my English level and I will definitely improve, I promise. But this is not the case. Usually, the IMAT preparation itself is quite challenging and overwhelming enough that it will not give you any opportunity to improve your English as a side thing among your preparations. And besides, the worse your English is, the more challenging will be your IMAT preparation, because you will not understand those questions. You will not understand my lessons or somebody else's lessons. You will not understand what you are reading as a study material, and you will get down, you will get unmotivated, you will start to give up, you will start to skip your study sessions, and then it will lead you to failure. So I'm not an English teacher. I don't give English classes to my students. But what you can do as a student to improve your English. So right now, if you are here and listening to me in this webinar, I assume that you're a student who are at the latest stage of high school, or even you graduated from high school and you are trying to get entry to somewhere. And based on this time frame in your life, I would say that you have to go to some sort of professional person, a teacher, or a course place, I don't know, online course, whatever you can find, based on your time schedule, based on your budget, based on where you are, etc., etc. Just get some professional help for your English preparation, because based on the time frame, like based on where you are in your life right now, you don't have any time to waste. It's like, oh, let me watch Netflix, and while I'm reading the subtitles, I will learn some English. No, you need materials, you need discipline, you need structure right now in your life. And some professional education will provide you that, hopefully. I highly recommend attending a certificate exam. TOEFL or IELTS are the ones that Italy obviously accepts. And why I'm telling you this is one thing. It will give you an exam atmosphere, real exam experience, which will be very helpful for your IMAT exam as well. Second, You will see a structure, you will go through an exam preparation, and obviously it will boost your English, and it will be super helpful for your IMAT performance as well. Thirdly, and the final concern is, we know that some universities require TOEFL or IELTS certificates and some don't. But the problem about this is, for example, I study in University of Turin and I entered in 2017. Back in time, it was obligatory to provide an English certificate. Right now, it is not. But no one can guarantee you that it will not be obligated next year as well. They may change their minds and request an English certificate from you. So if you have time, if you have the opportunity, please get a English certificate before your exam. Another tip, which is a daily tip, and I think it's very useful. It was useful while I was improving my English, and then Italian, then German. Switch your all social media or all online things to English. Like switch your phone settings to English, your laptop to English, your Instagram, your, I don't know, Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever, your whole communication, our all communication is happening on social media right now, unfortunately. So this is a place where we spend our time most. So if you spend your time most there, at least try to spend it partially in English. Try to follow English pages. Try to watch some English content on YouTube, on Netflix without subtitles. And obviously study all your IMAT exam materials in English, not in your own language. Another problem that I see with especially Turkish students, because we are also a country where the English education is not so well in high school. Obviously, people are learning all their science classes in their mother language, and then they have this huge struggle of feeling confident to study science in English. But this is what you exactly have to do. I had this problem with many of my students, as like whenever I give them an English material that I prepared and it's just perfect content for the exam. Next week, for example, we speak as like, oh, what did you do? Did you study what I gave to you? And they're like, no, it was in English, so I just study from a Turkish resource of my own. First of all, IMAT has its own curriculum and it's different than your country's exams. And second, this exam is an English language and you have to start to study in English. Even if you don't understand, you will learn and you will start to understand from somewhere. So these are the final tips. To sum up, I think I highlighted enough the importance of English, but rather than that, what you can do. And on this particular page, I tried to answer your questions that I saw on the form. So I hope this page is also helpful to you. You should start to study now. You may not have a method, you may not have a schedule, you may be worrying about the changes that we have been seeing and talking about, but you have to start to study now. IMAT is no longer, I think it was never, by the way, as an exam taker and as a teacher, I can say that. If somebody is telling you that in this year, in 2022, if somebody is still telling you that you can prepare for IMAT in 3 months or in 6 months, just don't work with that person, because probably they are trying to scam you. Like, this is not an exam anymore that you can study and get a good grade and pass the other thousands of people and get into your desired university. This is not working anymore, because like even this year we had like around 15,000 applicants to IMAT exam. I'm talking about the the ones who applied to and paid the money for the exams, not the ones who passed the exams, obviously. And we still have like around 800 or 900 places available, if I'm not wrong, to enter an English med school. So the competition is getting higher and higher, and you have to take this exam seriously. I always suggest starting with biology and chemistry topics. As a tutor, it may, usually it's a safe start, but also like based on students' background and needs, sometimes we change it, obviously. But biology and chemistry are the safe parts to start with. But like I told previously, mathematics and physics and skipping those are not on the table. Not anymore. You have 10 questions from there. What does 10 questions make? It makes like 15 points, which is super huge and important. So if you are studying and getting prepared on your own, try to set weekly and monthly goals. And based on those goals, try to make plans. Always the goals first and then the plans later. And then you will make weekly plans, monthly plans. Just at the end of every week, go back to your plan and check what were you able to do and what you couldn't finish on time. Because when we try to make plans as a student, I know that as a med student, I do this. And as a tutor, I try to avoid my students doing this. Just don't overpack your plans. That's why it's important to go back to your previous plan and control what you couldn't finish on time, so that next week you will create a different plan which you can catch up with. It's really important to be able to catch up with those plans to be successful. Another thing is always go back to the questions that you struggle with. I see people finishing question banks, finishing all the mock exams that I give to them. And yet, sometimes I put just the exact or very similar questions in front of them. And I see that they still get that question wrong because they never go back to the questions that they had trouble with. It's important. And try to not to, how can I say, run away from question solving. Question solving is an important part of preparation. And you have to start early, even if you don't feel confident enough. You will feel confident after you struggle with those questions. Just let me check the chat if there is something urgent to reply. Okay. Mehmet, I didn't like what you did there, so cancel that. Don't do it. This is not why we are here. And also, obviously, on the form and on everywhere, you always ask me which materials I should use for free. And if you want to get free materials, obviously, there are some like communications everywhere. And we are students, we are all on a budget, and I get it. But you can find these free materials everywhere. I don't have to, like, it shouldn't be necessary for me to give it to you. Like, if you are able to Google something, you will find some materials. And if you want to find some more information about which books I suggest and which channels or websites that I suggest for free to use, like, you can check this YouTube video. It is specifically prepared for final preparations, for the last month preparation. However, for the resources, it will be a useful video for you. And these are the websites that I constantly check, that I always check read in Italian, sometimes when it's necessary, translate, and these are the official websites. When it comes to universities in Italy, you have to check these three websites: Universally, CCA, and MUR. And whenever some kind of guide or some kind of official communication will publish, they will publish from these websites. So go ahead and save them. And if you're ready, I will skip this page as well. Another thing was, what do I do? Like, people come across to me as like, Ecem, what do I offer? What do you do for IMED courses, and how do you prepare your students? And I'm not the person who likes the advertisement part, not at all. Like, if I was liking that right now, like, we would be somewhere else. However, since you requested to be mentioned, I also included in today's webinar. Obviously, I've been giving some courses. Like I said, I started completely voluntarily to be able to help, like, because people were like coming with questions like, how did you do it? What are the rules? What are the application steps? And then the next questions will be is like, Ecem, I couldn't solve this chemistry question. Ecem, I couldn't solve this biology question. How do I study for this and that? And it gave me a huge amount of friends and network and experience, and I'm super grateful for that. But as a medical student and like as a person who wants to also have other interests in my life, we came to a point where I cannot meet the expectations of people and not answer all the questions that they are asking me, as like, can you solve me this question? And that question is actually like, to be able to tell somebody else, I have to revise organic chemistry 10 minutes and then go back and then give solution and then reply their further questions, which was very, very time demanding. As soon as I don't reply just one question or just one thing, I saw some very aggressive approaches like, how dare you to not to answer? But meanwhile, I'm just trying to appreciate my time and make the most out of it. So it had to turn into something well structured, and where both of the sides are having some responsibilities towards each other. So in 2020, I started to give professional lectures, coaching, and professional consultancy for your all application process that you can imagine. So on this page, I roughly covered what do I do with my students. This is a page where a page of a guide that I provide to my own students when we start. And this is how I approach to a student. When you come to my course, and this year I want to address it as our, because right now I'm working with a team of consultants and some other more tutors who are all students in Italian universities, meaning that this part is important. If you want to get some consultancy or tutoring from somebody else for IMED, those people have to be people who have this exam experience and teaching experience, meaning that try to work with people who took IMED exam, who has exam experience, obviously, and then teaching experience. Just don't go into somebody random in some another country who never probably stepped to Italy in their lives. And in the groups or on the pages, I see that as like, oh, if you wanna get prepared for IMED, I gave you this course for this crazy amount of price. And I think if you wanna work with somebody on this preparation, they have to be a student in Italy or even a doctor after graduating in Italy. I don't know, like, because I'm not the only one here, as I will say, you can trust. But like in total, I think you can count on like 3 or 4 people right now. And I'm not talking about companies, like, because companies are a big question mark for me based on what I saw in previous years. And trust me, I had to meet a bunch of companies since they were interested in what I'm doing and try to make me their permanent employee or something. And I think when it comes to living abroad, or let's talk about Italy, you have to work with someone who lives in Italy. This is super important. I don't think that, and I witnessed that people who are not living in Italy can give you only some limited information that can be found on the internet. They don't have any real life experience. For example, going to the university and completing enrollment, or going to the police office and complete your application to residence permit. Like, these are super important. Experience, Italian language skills, English language skills, network, these are all important criteria during you choose your consultant or your tutor. Anyway, coming back to what I'm doing, I always approach the student as a person, as a future colleague, as a future med student. And all the first meetings, I try to get them know what did they do, what are their experiences, what are their thoughts and vision about Italy and about medicine, and what are the things that they want to achieve after getting into medicine. Because personally, my goal is not to make someone get a good grade on IMED. That is easy. I always tell this to my students, and maybe on my videos you've seen before, heard before. IMED is the easiest step of this studying in Italy adventure. The real stuff, it starts after your IMED exam, and the real goal is to be able to stay in those Italian universities and to be able to graduate. And this comes with lots of criteria, multiple dimensions. So I always try to get them know, and what can I do for their application, and how can I consult them about their university and city choice. And then obviously the testing part comes. I send them some tests for their language skills. If they struggle with the language, like struggle enough to the point where I doubt if I can teach them something in English for the IMED content, I usually recommend some English courses or some places to go and improve their English, and I wait for them basically to start. And obviously there are the courses part. Until this year, there were usually private lessons where I teach the student on Zoom one-on-one. However, I also, last summer with my own students, I also experienced that there are huge benefits of group lessons where people compare each other, not in a bad or toxic way, but they were brainstorming together, solving questions together, or even opening their cameras and revising together. I saw a very good communication and collaboration in my group lessons. So this year we're gonna start to offer group lessons as well. And there will be other more tutors than me. Personally, I'm very confident on logic preparation and chemistry preparation, but there will be other tutors for math and physics, for example. Other thing is, obviously you have to have a plan, and that plan will be well explained to you. What are the goals for this week, and then this month, and then this 3 months, and then the goals until the exam, obviously. If you want to work somebody, check what is the plan or the structure that they are offering to you. Because you don't want to come across and work with somebody just sends you some random material from the internet and just sends you a list from IMED curriculum saying that, oh, this is the biology topics, just study for this and this. No, you have to work with somebody who can teach you live lectures and then answer your questions live, and then obviously prepare you some study plans or some exam materials. Obviously, once we start to work with the students, we also complete the whole application process, whether a pre-application is necessary or not. which documents you have to prepare based on your country and based on your background, because even if there are some certain general rules, unfortunately, based on even type of high school that you went or type of university that you previously went, the type of communications that we have to do or the documents that we have to put, they vary. And we always have to keep on track of them, which is something I'm confident about, like always direct communication with the universities, ask their requirements, ask their rules, and then prepare the application of the student based on that. And obviously, like I said, the goal is not to make you enter the test. After the exam, we always be in touch with my students about what did they do, what is the next step, whether they failed or succeed, and basically what to do as an individual in their life later. Oops. So the highlight of the courses, obviously, one-on-one lectures or group lessons with 5 to 8 people. Obviously, it will be more budget friendly for you because it will be more time friendly and time efficient for us as tutors. So I highly recommend considering group lessons. And at this page, I want to say our, and I'm very proud to say our because I'm very proud of, like, I'm very grateful for people that I met during this journey. Now I can work with them because there are some people who used to be my own student and now they are confident enough to be a consultant or a tutor. There are some engineers, there are some master students who are ready to prepare you some math, physics materials. They're all awesome people. They're all idealists. And we all believe that we should have equal opportunities and a good amount of resources that you can trust. And unique and individual study plan, this is something is very different from what I see on the internet every day. When I say unique study plan, you can really count on that. It will be a unique study plan only for you, and it will be prepared by me based on what you have to solve immediately and then in long term. I prepare original materials and mock exams, which I don't share online, obviously. I only share it with my students. And in short term, I don't think about sharing any kind of study material or selling or those kind of things right now. And direct and contact mentoring, which is important. Like, you don't want somebody who just gives you some documents and then vanishes during your preparation. Like, whenever you call me at 3 a.m. or like 6 a.m. Whatever, like, or message me, even if I can't reply you on that exact moment, I will reply you as soon as I can. And same thing applies for the team that I'm constructing right now, because I know that how stressful it is. I know that people, my students, and now I want to call as my friends, because once you complete your IMAT exam, you're my friend and my colleague. People were calling me crying as like, I have anxiety right now, what I can do. I'm having an asthma attack, what should I do? Or Ecem, I'm having some attention problems, how should I change my diet? Like, when it comes to this exam preparation, all this marathon, I take it as a whole, not only as a tutor, but also as a doctor. I always keep the health situation of my students, try to guide them on how to feed your soul and body, because this is a marathon where you cannot be a zombie that only studies and studies and studies, which will eventually lead you to collapse or crash at some point. And I will always like try to approach the preparation as a whole. And I took some courses about stress management, and I also prepared a guideline for my own students, which I try to follow and check, because especially after pandemic, this is something that I've witnessed. Even if you're aware or not, probably you have some attention or anxiety issues. And it's actually backed up with the fact that we had to spend some significant amount of time away from people and only in home and away from school and actual exams. So after the pandemic, I really see significant amount of people who struggle with their stress management, health management, and time management during exam preparation. And in our courses, this is something that we also try to focus on, or at least not to ignore. And I'm very confident to say that like this course offer will be the one with the best content and the lowest price. Why lowest price? Because I have no intention to become rich or become something else based on these courses. I have my own title, like at least soon enough, I will have my own job, which I will be super proud of as a doctor. And the only intention was all these things, all of those Instagram posts or all of those communications was to help people. So yeah, this is a course that you have to pay, but it will be the lowest amount in the market. And if you want to learn more, if you want to get an official communication and offer about these courses, please send me an email to this address because it will create a sort of official channel where I can send you some introductions where we can communicate privately and then proceed with the next steps with some, obviously, some official and legal steps as well. And if you're interested in these courses, I wanted to do something nice. I want to give you a 10% code for taking your time, sitting here on a Sunday afternoon with me and listening to me. So this is the discount code. And if you send me an email by mentioning this code, I will know you that you listened me this far, and I want to show you grateful that I am. So you can benefit from this. Just take a note of it, or I can also type it to chat. Let me write it. Yes. So this was it. I will try to be as active as I can on my social media to share updates or some important things that are going on for the exam and for applications. And now this is the favorite part, Q&A. Please try to stick with the agenda. Please try to not ask something else. And I will try to answer your questions. Let's see this chat. Just do you know any website to practice for TalkMed exam? I mean to practice with the previous exams. You mean the previous exam papers of Italian medical exam? If yes, basically you have to search in Italian as like the exam of Italian, like you can search for it online, and I don't remember the web page, but it should come across like directly, because just like IMED, it's been shared on multiple pages. It's easy to find. But the tricky part with the talk exam papers, and this will be the first year, obviously, where there will be an online medical exam in Italian. But I'm talking about engineering or economics exam papers. They usually don't give us past papers like completely. This is the tricky part, and I don't like this kind of gatekeeping of universities and Ministry of Education. They don't provide you the all past papers, but what they do is like, these are the questions that you can see the exam structure, and they just give you one paper or two paper. And this is something I'm scared of, because until now we were able to have the all IMED past papers, and I hope that we will keep having those. And if they make a change about it, I will try to you know, come against this like as much as I can, because this doesn't feel right. And I know why they are doing this as exam preparing tutors or teachers or professors. There are really some important people behind all these preparations, because they want to repeat those questions, obviously. But also, why don't you prepare new questions, right? For the books, you can check my YouTube video. If you're asking the number of people for IMET of next year, who knows? But last year there were like, they didn't give the official numbers yet. Probably in the winter time, especially in December, they have many official holidays, and these guys are in Christmas break mood. So probably we're not gonna get those official numbers before January or early February. But once we get them, you will be able to find them. Like, and this is not to advertise or anything. Like, you can check my pages, obviously. But also, I'm sure that you came across with my interview with a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel has a very, very good informative web page. And that person is my friend in real life as well. So you can also check this web page. Like I said, this is because I genuinely believe that it's a useful website, and I know that she's putting huge effort inside it, not to advertise or anything. I don't get any profit from this. You can check this webpage. For the numbers, especially like the numbers of applicants, the cutoff scores, European, non-European, etc. I don't like working on those numbers at all. It's a bit time consuming. Usually I expect somebody work on it, and then I make the comments and the strategy based on that. But she likes to work on those numbers so that you can find on her page. For the prices and the time schedules and what we do more in detail, you can email me in the courses. Language documents are required from some universities like Parma or Messina, but we don't know that if any other university decide to make it obligatory to give you to make you give a language certificate. So that's why I recommend, like right now, we are in December and the exam will be in next September. So you have enough time to get prepared and you have enough time to get a language certificate. So please consider getting a language certificate. And it will not only be useful for IMET, but also, for example, you're a math student and you want to go to an international conference, they ask your English certificate. Yes, I'm in happy in Turin, but the life or the faculty of Turin is not the agenda today, so I'm politely skipping this question. Yes, there are recurring topics, obviously, not only in physics and math, but also basically every section of IMET. The topics are more or less the same. What is changing is the difficulty of investigating your knowledge in those topics. So the topic is same topic, like you can find the official list or official curriculum of IMET in just 10 seconds in Google. The problem is the curriculum is like not very well detailed and informative. So by looking at the curriculum, we are not able to understand to what extent we are responsible from that topic. For example, they say mutations and some types of mutations. But when it comes to mutations, for example, in most of the high school curriculums, they teach us usually 3 or 4 types of mutations and very basic examples of those. But once you enter med school, for example, you spend your whole first year in mutations in your genetic classes, and we see lots of things, lots of mechanisms and examples. And for example, the problem is specifically on this topic, they say mutations, but they increase the depth of mutations throughout this all year. So I had to start to prepare my materials, for example, for mutations, not only based on the high school resources or books, but based on math school books. And this is where it gets tricky. The topics are repeating, but the depth is kind of like in between high school and university, first year of university. So it's a bit more advanced than what we usually see in Turkish high schools or in British high schools or in IB standard levels or A levels. It's a bit more advanced than that, but it's not advanced enough to be in university classes. This is where it's really tricky. No, we cannot talk about scholarship because this is not the agenda of this webinar. You got 33 on IMAT this year, and can you score good on next year's exam? You tell me that, like, what were your mistakes? Did you examine and analyze your own exam paper? Where did you get your wrong answers? Where did you get your unanswered questions, or what did you struggle most with? You have to make a very good assessment and then a very good study plan to get a good score. And this is what I also offer to my students. Like, you have to learn from your mistakes. And if you took IMAT previously, you are in huge advantage because usually your exam paper is a great resource to create a study plan for yourself. How would you advise approach studying for physics and maths? Any resources you'd recommend in particular? A-levels books, IB books. For speaking of IB, the standard level content of IB should be enough for physics and mathematics. But also, I'm curious about like what are they gonna do for physics and maths, because I really wonder if they're gonna increase the challenging approach in this physics and maths, and we'll see all together. But start with A-level books, Cambridge books, IB books. But if you have like zero background in these physics and mathematics, I would suggest to use Khan Academy as a start, as baby steps. And then obviously you have to increase your resources. I don't reply any questions about is Pavia or Milana, no, not today at least. I had no Italian language skill before going to Italy. I didn't even know how to say ciao and what does it mean. So I really recommend learning some Italian basics if you wanna have an easier life than me, because the struggle is real, as they don't usually speak English. I don't think that there will be a time change for IMAT this year. I don't think that they will be able to catch up with that, in the sense of multiple sessions means that since also they stopped working with Cambridge, what was Cambridge offering? Not only the IMAT exam paper, but they were also offering the worldwide test centers, the IMAT exam enrollment, the payment, controlling of the students' payments, lists, names, places, etc., providing those exam places and the people inside those places, providing the security, the control, the whole organization. Now that now they stop working with Cambridge. Who's going to be responsible with all those organizations and keep track of everything? So I don't think that there will be multiple or earlier sessions for IMET, because this change will require a huge amount of money and time for them. So this is my personal opinion based on what I see in the background. It might be wrong, it might be right, we will see all together. But just think about it, like thousands of people are taking this exam worldwide, and it will, which is different to Italian medical exam, because Italian medical exam, it only happens inside Italy. And let me tell you, all of the other English exams for other faculties are also happening only inside Italy. Some of them are online, which you can take home in your home country, but IMET was the only exam that you can just take in an exam center in somewhere in the world. So this is something difficult to change, and it will, if they make it only in Italy, how it's gonna be? If they make it worldwide, in which exam centers we will be taking that exam? Like, I'm really curious, but I don't think that there will be a rapid change about the dates, because they need some time to adjust. Our courses will start in late January / early February, based on the number of applications and also the availability of the students. This is something I always consider once students enroll to my courses. I always try to adjust the time schedule based on them. So I can say roughly early February, but based on the students and those groups that we are gonna get prepared. Thank you. I'm also very happy that you are in this webinar. Well, as opposed, like I'm waiting for an official communication. This is something that I don't like. I know that many other tutors or like other people who talks about IMAT, they just jumped into this single message from Cambridge and they made posts, etc., about this. But I will wait until official communication. Like, I don't need to jump into, how can I say, rumor type or gossip type of information. This is something I try to avoid. No, SAT is not accepted as an English certificate, at least for med schools in Italy. But it would be a different case if you were applying to some other private universities or some other faculties. Getting paid is not the agenda of this webinar, and you don't get paid in Italy until you become a doctor. I don't know why everybody is asking it, because it's like, it's on the internet, like seriously. It's on the internet that Italian medical students or med students in Italy, they are making regular protests about their rights to get paid or their salary increase when they become a doctor, or the number of the available places for the specialization exam. These are not bad things, but what I'm trying to say is, like, every country has their own problems, and right now we can confidently say that Europe is struggling with the healthcare systems and therefore medical educations. So people are always asking for a raise, obviously, because the workload is huge, just like in any other country. And these countries need doctors, and they have to adapt their systems to med students, because med students will be doctors. You should start with your weak points, obviously, if you have taken IMET previously. No, SAT is not useful for IMET exam, at least based on what we know. Yeah, I took a YKS exam, and for the ones that don't know, I apologize, but for the lack of information right now, YKS is the National University Entrance Exam in Turkey, and I took it just to make my parents happy and follow the criteria of some applications. And the topics are a bit different. Like, we cannot say that your YKS books will be useful for you to get prepared for IMET exam. Unfortunately, no. Studying your lessons and being a good student and having some strong science background is useful, obviously, but the exam formats and the way they ask the questions are unfortunately quite different. And YKS is wider in the curriculum, yes, but IMET is kind of, how can I say, it's a world-class exam in the sense of the format of questions and the way you have to approach the questions. Like, that's why it's different than YKS. February is not too late. Obviously, February is not too late to start the group lessons and revisions and mock exams. But February is late to start for your individual preparations, for your own revisions, and to start to learn English. Like, once we start in February, obviously we are not gonna start with people who cannot come with strong English skills and some good amount of scientific background. And this is what I'm very, very transparent with my students when they come to me to get a course based on the amount of months and time we have or the things that we have to achieve. I honestly tell them as like, you are not ready to take this course or you are not ready to take this exam this year. And February will not be late for the ones who have the, how can I say, the background for that course. I just skipped the questions that are not related to this topic. I'm sorry. I'm sure that you also have important things to do, so I'm trying to read fast the chat part. It's about applying your scientific knowledge, and by recalling, I assume that you actually mean memorization, memorizing the topics and then success in the exam. No, this is what I like about IMET, because it's a format of an exam which makes you think, not only in thinking skills and logic part, which is a very important part and my favorite section as a tutor. I love talking about logic. I love thinking and challenging myself in logic section, because that part, once you enter med school, will be the most useful part for you. You will forget your biology knowledge. You will forget some of your chemistry knowledge. You will definitely forget everything about physics and math. But what will keep you a successful math student and doctor will be your thinking skills, your questioning skills. So this is an exam where you also see this in the science part as well. Like, you have to think, you have to use your brain to combine that information with something else that you see on the question. And this is what I'm trying to teach my students, how to approach, how to think on every section. Any note-taking tips? Do you take notes on paper? Do you use flashcards? Obviously, I mentor my students very specifically when it comes to note-taking and revisions, but roughly, flashcards are super useful to learn English and to learn English terms. You can use flashcards, for example, if you are a newbie with biology terms. And taking notes is something useful, but also at some level of your preparations, it will be time consuming and unnecessary. So based on your level and based on where you are, yeah, you have to start with note taking, but this is also a skill to improve, because usually I assume that like most of the students are non-European, and like I can see some people from India, some people from Iran, some people from Turkey, like, and I worked with these nationalities before. We tend to take notes of everything, but this is not something useful, not only for IMET, but also in university. You have to improve your skill of taking and predicting the most important part of that book or of that lecture, of that video, whatever. So I would suggest to go through YouTube and check what Americans say, what Europeans say, what the university students say about note taking. For time managing, like I said, you should be able to see every question in every section in IMET. You have huge amount of time. Comparing to other med school exams in England, in Germany, in France, in SAT or in Turkey, like you have huge amount of time in this exam. Seriously, like you have 60 seconds per question, which is, comparing to other countries, other exams, is huge. So you should be able to see every kind of question on the exam. But where do you start? How do you start? Is actually, this is something that we should personalize based on the students. So I cannot give a quick answer on this part. Yes, BIMAT questions are useful for IMAT. Like at least this was the case for the last 12 years, but we will see if there will be any major change. Well, I think you can still use BIMAT questions and Italian med school past papers. Okay, so according to me, yeah, YKS preparation for Turkish people is not a waste of time. Depending on your goals. Yeah, I will try to share the recording of this webinar. I hope I succeed and upload it to YouTube. Yeah, these are all the questions, I think. And we are only a few people left here. So thank you for staying until now. Thank you very much. I wish you good luck. And we will be in touch. Take care and let's say goodbye.